All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Me here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and me. Another day in paradise. Speaking of paradise, remember, just like living in paradise, David Lee Roth. Well, listen, Dave was a little bit, I think, I don't know, not too bright when he decided to give Motley Crue the middle digit, just like, nope, I'm not going to go on your stadium tour. What? Okay, so what does David Lee Roth have lined up? All right, we all know that Gene Simmons, even though he's apologized profusely for making Dave angry, Dave, by the way, sent, speaking of digits, middle digits, I think he sent Gene Simmons like 18 of them via the wonders of Twitter technology. Dave let Gene really know how he was feeling after being kicked off of the End of the Road tour and replaced by a painter. It's just, this is the state of geezer rock, folks. I'm a geezer, you're a geezer. Wouldn't you like to be a geezer too? If you can't sing anymore, what you can do is use AI, just like they're using AI for everything. They figured out that they can take a sharp, shiny object and inject you with AI, and you'll be as good as new, even though it's never been tried on human beings before, and it's probably a little bit risky. Let's just go for it. And Gene Simmons, who could have been a sport, right, and just leveled with Dave, and he could have said, hey, Dave, we use all of this technology here at Kiss Incorporated to create this magical experience that we call a Kiss concert. And you too can partake in this. In fact, we can help you actually sound like you used to when you sang just like Living in Paradise, right? So I'm just a little bit flabbergasted that David Lee Roth would rather do his crazy contortions and sound like an ostrich that has a nail through its foot. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up as I go. But really awkward looking. Even Sammy Hagar has chimed in on this. He's just like, I don't care anymore. So Sammy is basically saying, what's the matter? What's the matter with Dave? Why is Dave like this? Dave is crazy. And then he's talking about how, he's married and he likes women and so forth, which is alluding to something about Dave, which I kind of did a video about here. And a couple of people reached out to me in a very negative way and said, how dare you? And I was like, what? What did I do? I just, inferred something. It may or may not be true. Hard to confirm. I've had people on the inside tell me that it might be true. And so what, right? I don't really care at this point, but it makes sense. All the things that have happened, especially over the last 20, 25 years, Dave seems to be a peculiar character, right? But it's kind of bizarre that he would turn down this amount of money, because I would think he's more of an entrepreneur, but he's saying, I don't go on tour with bands that I've influenced. Huh? Well, wouldn't that be kind of like a badge of honor? Or he's saying he doesn't want to open up for those bands. David Lee Roth should be the headliner on the stadium tour, in which case Gene Simmons should be running the audio, right, with his crew over at Kiss Incorporated to make Dave sound, a little bit more like Dave used to sound and make the show actually interesting. If I were David Lee Roth at this point, we've already had the Dio hologram that was fairly successful. And I've heard other bands, more AI, talking about the hologram, right? Why don't, people get together with Dave and say, look, we can make a hologram of you in your heyday during the whole jump phase, where the hair was really big and you weren't wearing shirts and, and old women can just swoon and be so happy to see you in your 1984 glory. I don't know. I think people might be more interested in that than seeing Dave kind of wiggle around the stage in Las Vegas. It's just, I think Gene Simmons was right initially. I think Sammy Hagar is right. I think everybody who's critiqued this isn't a guy going out gracefully. This is a guy who's kind of like flaming out, doing all kinds of weird things. Boy, was that a pun that I probably shouldn't have used. But in any event, it's kind of sad where Dave is right now, and everybody's kind of beating up on Dave. So here's something positive about David Lee Roth. In his prime, back before he decided to just pack up and leave Van Halen, which was probably the dumbest thing he ever did, because he thought he was going to be a movie star. I thought he could have this great solo career, and he did. He had a pretty good solo career for a little while, but he hit a hard brick wall about 1991 or so, like a lot of these guys did, because grunge showed up, and Dave was just, he was not a thing at that point. He was just so out of step. Some of those metal bands lasted a little longer than Dave because they got a later start and people were willing to cut them a little bit more slack, but I think if Dave were smart, he would have just said, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll open up. Sure. And it's just great that you guys who I influenced are the headliner. And not to say that Vince Neil is that much better than David Lee Roth right now. And there are all kinds of rumors about Vince Neil that he's going to be replaced, or John Corabi is going to come back, and John's really mad because he doesn't want to come back, and there's no way he's coming back. And the drama of Geezer Rock just continues on. But Dave, I think you should have taken the gig. Also, the way to do this moving forward is to get the hologram cranked up, the David Lee Roth hologram. It's just something that needs to happen. And Gene Simmons, you need to be the guy who does all of the arranging so you can, scoop up all those profits. So Dave will have to do something else to finance his tattoo removal cream. All right, that's my wacky video. Sorry about this, but I'm in a crazy wacky mood because we're living in the end times, folks. Talk to you soon.